What is going on, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by and spending a few minutes of your day with me as we talk about taunt games. Yes, it's the taunt game in Clash Royale. This adds so much to the game in my opinion, or it adds so much frustration to the game, but there is little that frustrates players more than, I've got to say it, Mortar and Expo users. So that's kind of what we're looking at today, but we're also talking about the taunts, and I want to hear what you guys think about the taunt system because I feel like it needs to be expanded. There are not nearly enough taunts to throw at the opponent. Not the number per game, but more like the variety. We're so limited in the messages we can send during the game. I feel like there's so much more that could be done. And in this battle, all of the warning signs are there. The indicators, the cannon, the Inferno Tower, the Elixir Collector. Matt already throwing out the crying face, and there it is. Here comes the mortar on the left-hand side, and I figure Matt was probably expecting this at this point. Also, I have to say, as hated as mortars and expos are, there are so many players that get higher than their average player, meaning high for their level, oftentimes like you see here. Matt as a level 10 facing a level 9 mortar user, but he's thrown out the good luck. He is so far ahead. He feels like he has this one well in hand, and obviously, these type of players are not counting on getting units to the tower. They are more focusing on range damage. You can see this player also has the rocket ready to go, but Matt has the old hog freeze, and when you have an opponent that's not ready for it, it can be a very dominant attack, freezing the tower and any possible defending counter units in there at the same time. And that's 2-0. 2 crowns to 0 doesn't look good. In fact, looks like Matt's opponent may have given up, thrown in the towel, and that is the 3rd crown, probably not even around to see those final taunts. Now, personally, I try not to taunt too mercilessly just because, well, you never know when you end up losing, and then it looks really bad when you taunt a player early and then you end up losing. So thumbs up right away, and I am not happy. And I knew this guy, I knew that this guy was coming at me with the mortar. I recognize the name. I'm not sure if the clan indicated that or not, but the level certainly did. The name and the trophy level, and then the cannon. I had everything in place to convict this guy as a mortar rocket user, and sure enough, the Tesla. Nobody uses a cannon and a Tesla without having either an Expo or a mortar in their deck. So right here, it's just a matter of keeping the pressure on. Golems in the deck's very good for applying that pressure and not giving your opponent much of a chance to counter. And you can see the cannon does draw the golem back away from the tower. We do get a few hit points on it before we lose the golem, but the damage is done and we're on our way to grinding down that right side tower and trying to keep the pressure on, avoiding him being able to set up too many defensive buildings and protecting that mortar, because that is what these users want. They want the Tesla and that cannon out in front to keep the mortar alive. In this case, he goes ahead and drops the mortar down, and there's another Raging King. Now, the mortar does go to work on my Elixir Collector. I did anticipate that. It works out. It's going to cost me the 5 Elixir for dropping the Collector, but at least it's going to keep the damage from the tower while I work on getting in there, and the minions, sure enough, even with the Zap spell, are going to get in there and take that mortar down. And yes, it's coming. You deserve the well played, sir, for putting that mortar down and getting it wiped out. And that means my Minion Horde is going to get in there behind those Golemites, and that's severe damage before the Fireball finally takes them down. But the Spear Goblins finish off that tower, and another well played for you and your mortar. Now, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I will say my stance on the Expo and the mortar is, if it's in the game, then it's fair play. But at the same time, it does kind of go against the whole idea of the game if you can win without ever getting another troop where? That's right, getting it to the tower. So yes, here comes another Tesla cannon mortar combo and a zap to try to stop my units, but I've got them all over the place, and with the right tower down, I can place units in and backdoor, and he's already thrown up the good game. It is pretty much over, but I'm sorry, not a good game. I'm going to continue to push for your other tower and to taunt you mercilessly while doing so. Another well played, and yes, that tower is going to go down. That's the 2-0 lead. Sorry, I don't know. And there's the rocket. The defensive rocket, well played, sir. It just sometimes brings out the troll in me. I apologize, really. I try not to be like that, but I can't help it sometimes. No, another mortar. Go for it. Good luck with that mortar. This game is over. I throw the arrows on the grass, and he answers with the fireball on the grass. Wish I could have thrown you a couple more taunts, but you know what? Yes, taunt limit reached. So we move on to our next battle, and it's Matt back at it again with... Sorry. No, it's Matt versus Pillow Man, and yes, he knows this guy is a mortar user. He recognized the clan name and the player name, so right from the start, Matt knows what is coming. So the elixir collector goes down, not always indicative of a mortar or expo player. But what happens in the next couple of rounds, the early fireball, more range damage, that's another nail in the coffin. The barbarians are going to get a little bit of damage before they're taken down by the elixir horde. But here it comes. Look at the cards. He doesn't even have a single troop to play at this point. He only had structures and range damage, and they're, I don't know, the most ambiguous taunt ever. The crying face. What does that even mean? I don't know. It is obviously meant as I'm sad, but I really think that 90% of the time it's used to taunt the other player like you're the one that should be crying, buddy. And that is exactly what Matt means right here. Now Matt drops his princess, and here it comes. Yes, it's ranged damage. Here comes the rocket all the way to get that princess and the tower. In the meantime, Matt's got Hog Freeze back on that tower once again. So Matt really doing well with the Hog Freeze. If you can time it right, just takes a couple of times to get through, and Matt very close to taking down that tower. But you can see his opponent had a pair of elixir collectors up, so obviously ahead in the elixir, and here it comes again, the crying face answer to the mortar. Now this mortar is going to get a few shots off. The opponent had the arrows ready. Now, I don't know, is Matt crying this time? Again, I have no idea. So Matt's going to get the mini Pekka in there, takes that mortar out of the way, but not before his tower is down well over 1,000 hit points. But again, he still has a significant lead, and unlike his opponent, he's counting on getting his units to the tower to win this battle. And with the second elixir collector up once again, that is going to be a tough deficit to overcome. Here comes another princess, and yes, here comes another rocket, rocketing that tower even further down below 1,000, a fireball after the rocket. So really, if you look at this deck, the skeletons are just a placeholder card that's going to help you rotate through back to the range damage. The minions obviously going to try to help protect the mortar as it's up, and just about everything else is range damage, or obviously the defensive inferno and the elixir collectors. And yes, they go up once again. Matt working on getting in there. There is another mortar, and it is going to be short-lived. Goes down right away. Did it even get a shell off? I don't think it did. Matt's tower still looking a lot better than his opponent's tower. Final 15 seconds, and yet another rocket. This one, however, missing the princess. So the princess is going to try to help out here. Rocket fireball, rocket fireball, rocket fireball, arrows. Arrows on the princess, and the tower doesn't look good. A single rocket wins it for his opponent. But here comes the Hog Rider, and a beautiful freeze. Freezing the Minion Horde, the Inferno Tower, and the tower. The Hog Rider on the mortar. The rocket will win it, but the Hog Rider's trying to get in there. Here come the arrows, and the Hog Rider one-shots the tower and just barely ekes out the win for Matt, beating a level 9. Again, those lower level players seeing a lot of success, like it or not, with the mortar deck. Alright, let's squeeze in one more replay. You guys like to see the longer pineapples, don't you? Anyway, so here we go. We've got another 11 versus 11, and this time you've got a player who's got a mortar, but we don't see it until very late in the battle, probably like we talked about earlier, because this golem-based deck keeps the pressure on and never really gives my opponent a chance to build up and get that mortar down. Now also, of course, the fact that the mortar is going to rotate around as one of the last cards in his deck is a disadvantage for him. Now, he did have the elixir collector up early, and I'm sure he's happy with that. When you have an elixir collector in your deck, it is a big advantage to have it as one of your starting cards. In fact, if at all possible, your very first card. But here, you can see I've dropped the golem before he had a chance to build up and get that mortar out there with the cannon. And it looks like rather than going ahead and putting the mortar down maybe in the opposite lane, he is going to change his mind. He moves over to the Minion Horde and drops it in the back. I've got my arrows though, Minion Horde down, and the Inferno Tower goes down at the same time. He's got no splash damage other than, yes, a rocket, and that right there is the ultimate desperation move. When your opponent uses the rocket on defense, you know that they are in trouble, and that is going to be tower number 1 as the Golem gets through along with the minions. That Valkyrie just helpless, and you can see really where the weak point of this deck is. With so few troops to deploy, if you get in there, if you get an offensive push deep into enemy territory, there is little he can do to stop it, especially if you are able to effectively deal with the Inferno Tower. So we're back in to reset, but I'm keeping the pressure on. The Golem is going down next, and he drops an Elixir Collector right here. So that is a huge advantage right now for the approaching Golem. So I'm feeling good once again. I know what his cards are. I know that he's just about ready to drop the Inferno Tower, but this time with the left tower down, I can backdoor that Inferno Tower with some units. Here come the Goblins. He easily deals with them with the Valkyrie, but that is where my deck is so strong. Right there, I had too many air units. His arrows couldn't cover them all. The minions not only work on the Inferno Tower, but also distract it. And here we are, moving in once again, dropping my arrows. Lots of little units. The Golemite goes down. The Valkyrie is in there. And the Valkyrie is going to tank for the other units as they finish off the second tower. So this match is all but over, but we've seen every single warning sign. The rocket, the cannon, the Inferno Tower, the Elixir Collector. I dropped the well played because I knew it was here somewhere. I knew he just didn't have a chance to drop it. And sure enough, with about 10 seconds left, as I drop the Troll Elixir Collector on his side, he drops the ultimate. The Please Don't 3 Crown Me Mortar on the King's Tower right there. I just have to laugh. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be nice. I really am. And there's the good game. I would answer you with another well played, but yes, taunt limit reached. So I will wrap up this episode with a little Gala philosophy, and that is, when you are in a situation or there is something that you just do not like, you can only do 3 things about it. You can change the situation, you can accept it, or you can let it drive you crazy. Which is it going to be? Because I don't think the mortar is going anywhere. I am trying to become at peace with the mortar and Expo, but it's not easy. Help me out, you guys. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Love it or hate it. Thank you once again, as always, for sticking around all the way to the end of this episode. I appreciate the fact that you guys come by, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for more full attacks.
Galadon, that was a long episode. Did you save time for me to